world, welcome back to my channel. I'm here today with a video that is just kind of for fun. I have here, as you can see, my TBR cart, and I just thought I would take a little tour, say a little bit about the books that are on here. I've got this front side and some shit here on the back. And honestly, I have this picked out. I have the books on here because I want to read them, but I don't often choose from this cart. So I'm hoping if I talk about it and then maybe you guys are like, oh, this book was so good and this book was so good, then it will motivate me to choose off of here more often. I guess so I should start with like what a TBR cart is, in case you're not aware. This is a very trendy thing. This is actually my second one because my first one got kind of crushed by a giant box that fell over off the wall and like pinned it and like smushed it a little bit, so then it was all wonky and like I couldn't roll it anywhere and my books don't fit very nicely on it. But this is a cart, a very cute cart. And on it, I put books that I'm really super interested in. So here they are. I actually redid this a couple months ago, put some back on the shelf, put some ones back on the shelf, or back on the cart, or put new ones on the cart really. And here they are. They're all sorts of things. Sometimes I put them on here because I've heard someone talk about them. Sometimes I put them on here because they're like new releases from last year that I really wanted to get to but didn't. Things such as that. So let's just start here with this one. This is String Follow by Simon Jacobs. This is on here because I heard someone, I bought this, right? So I was interested in it, but then recently I heard someone talk about it. I think it was like at the end of last year, because this was a release last year and they talked about how good it is. So I think this one is like one that is a dual timeline or something where like something happened in the past and like as children and now these adults are dealing with it, which is something I really like. So that's String Follow. Then we have 20th Century Ghosts by Joe Hill. This is a short story collection. I want to read this because I read Black Phone when it came out and I'm like, you know what, I should just read the whole thing, and then I didn't. So it's on there. So that maybe I'll finish it one day. Then I have Jawbone by Monica Ojeda. This is like a witchy teenage book, I'm pretty sure, like Friends, witches, teenagey thing. So that's why it's there. I also have on here The Rib from Which I Remake the World by Ed Kurtz. I've had this for quite some time. I remember hearing people talk about it like around when it came out. I waited until I can snatch up a used copy, so here it is. All I know about this is I think like creepy carnival stuff. So I'd like to read it. Then Lord of the Flies by William Golding. This I just have never read. I should have read it when I was in high school, but I went to like my freshman year of high school. I went to 3 different schools and I just missed. Honestly, what happened was when I would get to a new fucking English class, they would have just started reading Romeo and Juliet, so I read that 3 fucking times instead of reading other books. So Lord of the Flies I just missed out on. I found this cool edition at Barnes & Noble a couple years ago. It's got a fucking killer cover, and honestly I just like want to know what people are talking about when they make references to Lord of the Flies. Like I get it, like I know that they have to kill each other, or I don't know if they have to, or if they just like do, but I want to understand. I want to be in on it. I also have The Magpie Coffin by Weil E. Young. This is like a horror western. I think they call them the splatter westerns, like this collection. It's from Death's Head Press, and they have quite a few of them at this point. So I've got 2 of them, and I'd like to read the first one so that I can continue to read it. I do love horror westerns. I love weird things set in like the Old West, or, you know, like Star Wars, which is totally a fucking western, you know what I mean? I also watched recently both the Vampire Hunter D movies, which I really loved, and those are definitely like horror westerns, and I've just been in the mood for that right now. I wrote a fucking book on Westward I wrote a paper on Westward Expansion. It's just been on my mind lately, so I'd like to read that. And then I also put on here The Kaiju Preservation Society by John Scalzi, which is like a sci-fi book about this place where they protect kaiju, which kaiju like originated in Japanese cinema, like Godzilla, Mothra, what else? Mecha Godzilla, basically any giant creature type thing. There's, what's the one with 3 heads? Ghidorah? I don't know. I could be totally off base, but I do love Godzilla. I love the Godzilla movies. I haven't watched all of them, you know, as you might be able to tell, because I can't name more than 3 of Godzilla and his frenemies names, but that's why I picked this up, and I really tried to get to it last year and I just didn't, so here it is on the list. Then also Book of M by Ping Shepherd. This is on my list because I know it's an apocalyptic type story that, like, it's this apocalyptic event kind of is caused by people losing their shadows, and then I think they like maybe lose their memories or something like that. But either way, I really love books where there is a global pandemic, whether that is just losing your shadows or like Severance by Ling Ma, where people get stuck in this like loop of whatever they were doing, like these habits, until they wither away, you know, stuff like that. I love it. That's why this is here. Then also Allegedly by Tiffany D. Jackson. I've really been wanting to pick up her books for quite some time, and I've had this one since it came out, which was quite a few fucking years ago. So I keep saying to myself, I need to read this one before I buy more of her books. This is about a Black woman who is babysitting for a white family. So there is a white infant who dies, and I'm assuming she is blamed for it or something like that, and that's where this goes. So I do enjoy these hard-hitting sort of contemporaries sometimes, and Tiffany D. Jackson has gone on to write like really horror or horror adjacent books, so like I want to fucking try her work out, you know what I mean? I also have Survive the Night by Riley Sager, which is the next Riley Sager book I need to read, and I haven't. He writes thrillers. That one's about like somebody getting into a car with a stranger, I think. I honestly can't remember. I'm like 3 behind now, so I really need to get on that. Then I also put on this cart, Head Like a Hole by Andrew Van Wey, because of the cover and because it takes place in the 90s, and that's all I really need to know because I really love 90s inspired things. Then also the Awasawa Murders by Riku Onda. This is about a party where 17 people die because they drank cyanide-laced drinks, and it is like a crime thriller kind of a thing, and I'd love to read it. The cover looks like it would be such a pleasant book, but I don't think it is. And then also this Thing Between Us by Gus Moreno. Looking at this cart, I'm like, okay, well next month I have to read an entire TBR based off this, right? Because I'm remembering how much I am so interested in these books. This is about a couple, they have this Alexa type device, I'm pretty sure, and then like the wife dies or the husband dies, and the partner who's left behind, I suppose, is, I don't know, it's like something with this thing, with this device, and strange things start happening with it. So it's like a weird technology book, which I really love, and I've heard good things about this, and I just should read it already. And then, oh my god, I've had this book on TBRs and still haven't read this. This is The Exorcist House by Nick Roberts, another book. It was just kind of buzzy for a while. Look, I even have a fucking bookmark in it. That's also a thing that I do where I'm like, I'm gonna read this book, and then I put a bookmark in it, and then I leave the bookmark in it. I forget about it. So this is set in the 90s, which is why I picked it up. Also, it's about this family who move into a house that used to belong to an exorcist. And then also Unbury Carol by Josh Malerman. This is another like horror western type book, but really this is on my TBR cart because I've previously really enjoyed Josh Malerman's books. Most of them, I think there's only one that I really haven't liked, so I just want to continue to read through his back catalog because there's a couple that I haven't gotten to yet. This is one of them. Then also these Hollow Vows by Lexi Ryan, and all I know is that this has fairies in it, which I do really love in my fantasy books. I'm hoping that it gives me like Cruel Prince vibes or something like that. So I really like that book, and I'm hoping that this will be similar. Then Leave the World Behind by Rumaan Alam. This is another like apocalypse event book where this family is staying in an Airbnb and then they're kind of cut off from the world, I believe, when an apocalyptic event happens. So it seems short and sweet. Why don't I just read it? Then also we need to talk about Kevin by Lionel Shriver, because I've had this book for forever and I like the movie. And I like stories like this with a mother who is not sure if she is fucking crazy or not, or if her child is really truly evil. And here we go, here it is. Then also Invisible Monsters by Chuck Palahniuk, which I noticed when I put this on here that there are 2 price stickers. I think because the cover is, you know, which side does it go? So I think someone put it on one side and was like, wait, no, that's not the right side, which is kind of hilarious. So this I put on here because someone told me that the movie Neon Demon was kind of based on this, and when I looked it up, I couldn't find anything about that, but maybe they just got the same vibes from that, and I'm into that. So here it is. Hopefully I'll read it. I've got a couple Chuck P books that I haven't gotten to yet. And it's been a long time since I've read his stuff, but when I was like reading it regularly, I really enjoyed what I read. So why not? Why not? Also, The Forest by Lisa Quigley. This is about like a folk horror thing where they might have to make a sacrifice type of a thing. Sounds great. I'm into it. Then a nonfiction. This is Inferno by Catherine Cho. It says a memoir of motherhood and madness. I believe the author here suffered from postpartum depression, or postpartum psychosis, I think, which is different than postpartum depression. But they're both very serious, and something that really interests me because, you know what? When I had my child, it was not very much fucking fun like people led me to believe it would be. And I think I was really lucky to have a safety net of people who guided me through that, you know, through those feelings. And I didn't really say much about it. And now, you know, learning about that, I know for sure I didn't have postpartum psychosis because that is very, very serious. And if you know a new mother who is displaying strange behavior, like definitely talk to the people around them about getting help for them, because it can be really serious for them and for the baby. And so my point is I'm very interested in that because I think it doesn't get talked about a lot. You know, in society we're supposed to just like love being a mother and just fall right into the role, but it doesn't always work out like that for some people. Then next, also Smashed by Junji Ito. This is one of his collections. It's the next one I have that I haven't read, so there it is. And the last one by Alexandra Oliva. And this is about like a reality TV show, which is something I fucking love when it's like Wrong Turn. Which one? Was that 2 or 3 with Henry Rollins in it from Black Flag, and it's like this reality TV show that they're filming. I love that kind of trope. There it is. And The Return by Rachel Harrison, which I keep hearing about her books and how they're great. And I have 2 of them now. Is her other one on this too? It might be the other one that I have of hers. But I keep saying, I have her first one, so I should read that first. This is like a thriller about friends. They're meeting together, which is something that they did previously, but it's been a while since the last time they met, because the last time they met, one of their friends disappeared. So there it is. I'd love to read it. Also, Full Immersion by Gemma Amor. Another one about motherhood being not just easy and happy. Great. Parenthood, I should say. But this is about a mother. Next, Peter Watts' Blind Sight. This is a sci-fi book about aliens, so I'd love to read it. Also, sci-fi romance, paranormal romance, whatever you want to call it. This is Ice Planet Barbarians by Ruby Dixon, and this is about humans who fuck giant blue aliens. Love it. Then, all these subtle deceits by C.S. Humboldt. This has been on my list for quite some time. I heard it was really good when it came out. I love the artwork. I believe this is a possession story, if I'm not right. I don't know. I'll figure it out when I finally fucking read it. Then The Chain by Adrian McKinty. This is about, like, okay, let me just read this because it's short and sweet. It says, you just dropped off your child at the bus stop. A panicked stranger calls you from your phone. No, they don't call you from your phone. A panicked stranger calls your phone. Your child has been kidnapped. The stranger then explains that their child has also been kidnapped by a completely different stranger. The only way to get your child back is to kidnap another child. So, it sounds fun. Sounds great. Then, The Book of Most Precious Substance by Sarah Gran, who wrote Come Closer, which was explosively terrifying. I don't know. It didn't make me shit my pants, but it was really creepy, and I've really wanted to get into more of her stuff. This is about a, like, book tracker downer who is commissioned to find this book, The Book of Most Precious Substance, and it's like this twisty, weird story. Then another book about kidnapping, Living Dead Girl by Elizabeth Scott. This one is like supposed to be kind of disturbing, so here it is. Then on my TBR card is The Grim Company by Luke Skull. What a great name. This is like a grimdark fantasy, which is something I haven't read in a long time, and I really would like to. I think maybe I might read this with Zach, possibly, because he likes that stuff too. So here it is. I really have been looking at my fantasy books lately, and I've just read a lot of horror, and I love horror, but then I'm like, oh yeah, I forgot about you guys, and I should pay attention to you too. Then, Gather the Daughters by Jenny Melamed. This is another one I picked up because I heard it was really fucked up. Oh, a third one I picked up because I heard it was really fucked up. This is My Absolute Darling by Gabriel Talent. I think this is another one about, like, kidnapped girl, something, I don't know. I just heard it was messy, and so I wanted to read it. Then Human Monsters, a horror anthology, which is edited by Sadie Hartman and Ashley Sawyers. You might recognize those names. This is a short story collection, and I'd really like to read it. Also, like, this cover, this cover is so fucking cool. This cover is so fucking cool. And Mother Thing by Ainsley Hogarth. You know, you've heard me talk about this for sure. This is about a young woman who has never had, like, a solid mother figure in her life. It's something she kind of seeks out of the relationship she makes, and maybe makes some relationships because she needs something like this in her life, or she feels like she does. And she is looking for this from a woman, an older woman who works at, like, the elder care facility she works at, who lives there. She doesn't work there. Like, the older woman lives there, and the main character works there. And also from her own mother-in-law, who hates her, apparently, and, like, she can't really figure out why, and her mother-in-law moves in with her and her husband and quickly dispatches herself and then starts to haunt them. So it sounds so fucking weird. I know also, like, she is obsessed with, like, the 1950s thing, so she's, like, cooking out of this 1950s cookbook, which explains the gelatinous meat substance on the cover. Oh my god, I'm so excited. Then, King of Battle and Blood by Scarlett St. Clair. I just know that this is, like, smutty fantasy. And Escape Room by Megan Golden. This I picked up because it's about, like, it's like a thriller set in an escape room, which I really love escape room movies. There's only a couple I've been able to, like, hunt up, but, like, I really love that, the puzzles and the thrilling murders or disappearances, I suppose, depending on how it goes. So I'm into that. Then also The Violence by Delilah S. Dawson. This is a book that came out last year that I really wanted to read and didn't get to. This is about a woman who is in a really terrible relationship, and then this like illness starts to go around where people act violently, and she uses that as a way to get out of her terrible relationship, if you know what I mean. But this is like really chunky, so I'm sure there's more to it than that, and I will just have to uncover it when I get to it. Also on my list, Things We Do in the Dark by Jennifer Hillier. I keep hearing her name. She is supposed to be a really great thriller writer, and I'd just like to learn for myself. So I've had this book that she wrote. I think I picked it up last year, and I'd like to read it. Then another nonfiction. This is The Woman with a Worm in Her Head and Other True Stories of Infectious Disease by Pamela Nagami. This is that, a collection of strange medical horror stories. Great. And then a Darcy Cutts book, because I've got, I think, 3 of her novels now, and I haven't read a single fucking one. This is Parasite, and this is a book set in space with like some sort of parasite. What more could I ask for? Almost nothing. And Tomb of Gods by Brian Moreland. This is like adventure horror, like Indiana Jonesy, kind of like The Ruins by Scott Smith or The Anomaly by Michael Rutger. Books I talk about fucking constantly. I think that this might fit into that same little slot of things, and so I'd like to try it out. Okay, we're almost to the end here. We've only got a couple more books. This is Heart, Strange and Dreadful by Tim McGregor. This was a gift, and I'd really love to read it. This takes place in the early 1800s, and it is like a, you know, small village turning on people kind of a thing. I think there's also like a plague, so there's a couple things that are interesting to me there. Also, Red X by David Demchuk. This is about a killer in Toronto who's targeting gay men. It really reminds me of, like, oh god, what was that guy's name? I don't remember. A guy who killed multiple men in Toronto, and I'm pretty sure it was Toronto even. So I think that this probably takes inspiration from that. It's a really terrible, sad story. Then also From Blood and Ash by Jennifer L. Armentrout. This my friend read and was like, you should read this, and so I'm hoping to. Also Stephen Graham Jones, Mongrel's Werewolf Story, and last but not least, this is Working Stiff by Judy Melanik and TJ Mitchell. This is about a woman becoming a medical examiner. Those are the books on my TBR cart. So I'd love to know if you've read any of these. Motivate me to read these. I mean, this is motivation really when I film this and I'm like, oh, I love that. I love that. I love that. I'm just really, I should make a TBR next month. So tell me if you loved these or if you hated them. I'd love to know. Thank you so much for watching. I will see you later.